whatever you want in food. Local food gets you that.
The beer breeds are very responsible with nature.
Chicken. They're social and intelligent, just a different intelligence.
Welcome to Save My Planet. I'm Stephen Brooks here in Costa Rica. Sustainable farming is an important part of life here. Everything from fruit to coffee, they're growing it in sustainable ways. Indigenous communities have been doing it for centuries, like the Brie, but we'll check in with them later. What about where you live? Have you ever wondered how the food you eat impacts the planet? And it's not just how the food's grown, it's also where it comes from. Grapes from Chile, strawberries from Mexico. The fuel used to transport your food to market can leave a big carbon footprint. So imagine the benefits of eating only what's produced within 100 miles of where you live. There's a growing group of people doing just that. They're called locavores.
I like to eat. I mean, I think I kind of, I carry that around with me more than I like to sometimes. I got this idea that, well, could we eat all of our food? Could we kind of survive living off of the market from here? And I kind of convinced my family, well, let's live like we would, if there wasn't grapes being flown in from Chile, if there wasn't, year-round strawberries. If we can get it locally, then we eat it only locally.
Wait a minute. What about food that just can't be grown locally?
But it doesn't mean we don't drink coffee and we don't have olive oil and, chocolate and, there's all sorts of things, spices, we're not trying to limit ourselves. And I'm a really big believer, in the sense that don't make yourself nuts trying to eat local.
Well, that's a relief.
We're doing it for a lot of reasons. We do it, I think, more than anything for the food, in the sense of how it tastes and the quality of the food, but we do it for the environmental reasons, and we do it for the fact that we like to support people in our community. And the thing that I always tell people is that whatever you want in food, whether it's how you want your animals treated, farming practices, local food gets you that. It lets you eat food the way it's supposed to be eaten. The best reason to eat local is the quality of the food. A new potato is literally a new potato. Cherries just don't have to come from a can. I mean, this is what a tomato is supposed to look like. This is a yellow zebra. I mean, do you see anything that looks like this, at the grocery store? If you're growing a tomato and it has to be shipped across the country, they got to pick those tomatoes, green, and also they're growing the kind of tomatoes that are meant to package nicely. And not only does it have to be shipped, but then it's got to go from transportation center to transportation center.
But wait a second. Transportation only counts for about 10% of the total carbon footprint of food production.
So what? You still, if you can affect the amount of distance that it takes, for the food to reach you, you're making a significant impact on the environment. All the reasons we talked about for eating local, they don't go away, when the market closes up. So you need to do things to eat local year-round. A lot of our meat, we're getting local. We bought a half a hog we have in our freezer, bought a half a cow. There's like a story and a message, behind your food. Eating becomes a much more meaningful act. You can get some of those tomatoes we saw over there and some of the peppers, the cheese from there, and a bread like this, and you're in business.
As the saying goes, think globally, act locally. Or as Rob might say, eat locally. It can have a really big impact, and it's not that hard to do. Talk to your grocer about where your food comes from. Shop at your local farmer's market, plant a garden, and if you have really big ambitions, you can try and raise some animals, even in the city. We'll check that out next. The average meal in the U.S. travels more than 1,000 miles before it reaches your plate. Eating local is a great way to reduce that carbon footprint. Here are a few tips on how to get your food close to home. Join a community garden. Eat at restaurants that serve locally produced food. And avoid out-of-season fruit. Strawberries in the winter have a long way to fly. Welcome back to Save My Planet. Just because you live in the city doesn't mean you can't raise your own eggs. More and more urban dwellers are starting to raise chickens in their own backyards and gardens. Raising a flock is a great way to reconnect with the food you eat and reduce some of the waste that goes into food production. Let's head over to New Orleans to check it out.
Everyone can contribute to their own food production. Even if you have a very small place, you can have a chicken or two.
If you have a chicken, it takes care of the earth.
This girl here contributes to the environment because she's, cleaning up my weeds, giving me manure to go into my compost, which goes back into my garden. Whereas the industrial cycle isn't a cycle, it's linear.
We bought this house as close to the river as we could, and we bought the smallest house we could on the largest lot, and so that we could grow a lot of food. So the front yard is for the public, it's for the neighbors, but the backyard back here is for the chickens. When I was coming up, we had chickens. We had a huge chicken yard with all these crazy varieties. I guess I always sort of wanted that.
The chickens love to hang out under the grapefruit tree, and that's good for the grapefruit tree too, because they will poop, which helps fertilize the grapefruit tree. They also love to scratch. The scratching does two things. It gives it a little bit of aeration, but it also keeps the weeds down. They also help with bugs that might attack the tree.
Of course, one of the best things about raising chickens is the fresh eggs you get. But you gotta keep those hens happy.
This is the chicken coop. It was made with scraps of wood that we had laying around the yard.
There's one egg in there. You want to get it?
The nesting box is probably the most important thing to a chicken. They love having a special place to go nest.
These are nice, fresh, clean eggs that are very tasty. Now, one of the differences between eggs you'll get from an industrial farm and eggs that we get in our yard is that you can see that they don't spread out all over in the pan because they're very fresh.
And they taste better too. Frank and Laura aren't the only ones in on the action. Philip Soule brought a whole bunch of chickens downtown and got their whole neighborhood involved.
This is actually part of an urban community garden here. Neighbors come in to see what's going on. Classes come out here who are doing gardens. Farms out, there you go. A lot of urban kids have never seen live chickens. The chickens actually work really hard for me in the garden here because they control the weeds that I pull, I throw into their coop for them to eat. They eat up the seeds, they eat the roots, they peck through it until it's completely dead. That material is converted into manure, which I can then compost. Do you know what compost is? Well, when the chickens poop, I pick it up and I put it in a pile over there with some dead plants, and it rots. And it's, really the traditional means of fertilizing an organic garden.
So no joke, I can have my own flock in the city?
All you really need is about, 20, 30 square feet. If you only wanted to have, say, 2 hens, and you should not have less than 2. They don't like being alone.
What about the city restriction? They don't complain, the neighbors not complain about the chickens?
Different areas have different ordinances about raising chickens. Some instances they're considered to be livestock, and there are certain regulations about that. Other places they're considered to be pets. Every municipality has its own rules and regulations. I don't think that having roosters in an urban environment goes over very well.
But that's okay. You'll get plenty of eggs without a rooster. The only problem is what to do with them all.
I produce a lot more than I would normally consume myself, so I'm able to take some of my excess vegetables and eggs and trade for fresh seafood. All of the chickens have personalities. They develop their own little hierarchy. It's a lot of fun. It keeps me involved. It makes me aware of where my food is coming from.
Everything that we do here is kind of contributing to being more sustainable. Smaller footprint, small house, small people.
Interested in your own flock yet? Well, it's not that expensive. A bag of feed only costs about $20, and little chicks only about $1 a piece. And you can order them online. Come Sunday morning, when you fry up those eggs, you'll probably be happy with your investment. Up next, we'll meet some indigenous people of Costa Rica who have been living off the land for centuries, the Bribri. Welcome back to Save My Planet. When it comes to living green, we have so much to learn from other cultures. Take the indigenous Bribri people of Costa Rica. They've been practicing sustainable living for centuries, and they've even figured out a way to share this tradition with the rest of the world. I'm here with Cecilia Mora. She is the Director of Sustainable Tourism for Horizontes Nature Tours. And we're here in Kekoldi Nature Reserve with the Bribri indigenous people.
The Bribris are a very important indigenous group from Costa Rica. They mostly live in the Caribbean side of our country. There are around 25,000 in this area. Their main activities are related to agricultural activities, also to the handcraft production. They represent the real Costa Rican people.
So how did Horizontes get involved in Kekoldi and this project?
This project is being developed by a social responsibility group, and Horizontes is working in how to open new markets in the tourism market. It's not easy to make a mix between how to preserve the culture and how to get money. So in this project, we're trying to train the people on how to sell it in different ways, what they produce, and how they can survive with this business, but also without losing the cultural meaning. They mostly work with fruit called jicara, and they make different objects for their use and also as an object for decoration.
So here I am with my Bribri friends right outside their home. They're actually planting these gourds to make their art with. What's so amazing is that you think about, the materials that they need to make their crafts. They're growing right outside their home. It's perfect. What an easy commute. Traditionally, they didn't have water bottles, so the way that they would move water around on, long hikes and trips, they would use these gourds as water holders. They would just make a hole right up here on the top, clean it out with a stick, and then dry it out. They find uses for everything. And what's incredible is all this waste that, this inside the seeds and the guts of the gourd, then they're fed to the pigs and the chickens. Nothing goes to waste.
The Bribris are very responsible with nature. They just took the things that the nature don't need.
So here we are collecting another plant that just grows abundantly near their homes. In Bribri, they call it senco, or Panama hat palm. ¿Cómo lo cosechas? ¿Cómo lo haces?
Sí, uno lo corta, después si no corta 2 o 3, le saca lo que son estos, todo lo que son estos verdes.
Basically what they're doing is you see how these leaves kind of fan out. What they're using is where the new leaf is just coming out. So what they do is they take this yellow part of the leaf and they actually boil them. After they boil them, they put them in the sun to dry. Then they make these awesome things that we're gonna go check out next. So those Panama hat palm leaves that we saw actually turn into baskets like this. There's something they've been making for thousands of years. It's only recently that they're actually now selling them to tourists. ¿Y estos diseños tú inventas o tienes como un libro? ¿Cómo lo?
Libros.
So she just has these images and then she's able to draw these beautiful designs. What Cecilia does is she really makes sure that the communities are benefiting from the art that they're making, and it's a really important job.
Yes, it's very important because, as you know, there are some people that are, sometimes they lie to the communities and they took their products
and then sell it for a lot more and just a little bit of money in the community. So Cecilia really makes sure that the money that comes in for the handicrafts actually stays in the community and makes it not only the community but to actually the women that make it. But you're also trying to find a larger market for them to sell their crafts. So that's really important.
Yes, that is very important, and the people is very open.
That's
they are
great.
really interested in knowing what is behind the product, the story behind the product, the treasure that means that the handcraft is not just a jicara.
Right.
The jicara
No,
means
it's a treasure. I
culture.
agree. Yeah, it really is. A very, very common tree around here in Spanish is called guarumo. And they take the trunk and dry it. And look how she just rolls it on her knee to make the thread. Yeah, it's natural for them. Her grandma taught her mom, and her mom. We can't lose this, she said. We can't lose this. It's so great that they could take this incredible culture that they have and now have a second income into their families. This is a very unique form of art, and it's really important that this continues, and mother to daughter to granddaughter, this knowledge is being passed from generation to generation and really preserving an important part of the Bribri culture. Up next, we'll see how the Bribri have come up with a way to replenish one of their favorite food sources, the iguana. Welcome back to Save My Planet. The indigenous Bribri people of Costa Rica have managed to hold on to their eco-friendly way of life for centuries. They've also gone to great lengths to protect and replenish one of their most important resources, the green iguana. Here we are at the Cacoldi Iguana Reserve, and what a magical place. I'm here with my dear friend Gloria, and so much history here. Why? ¿Por qué empezaste este proyecto de las iguanas?
Porque hace 20 años ya estaba desapareciendo y nosotros los indígenas necesitamos las iguanas para enseñarles a nuestra cultura. También usamos la iguana, antiguamente la grasa se usaba para medicina, la piel para artesanía, y ahora pues la conservamos para que siempre se mantenga en el medio ambiente.
¿Y por qué estaban desapareciendo los iguanas?
Porque la gente empezó a cortar los bosques de quiera de cacao y cazarlas. Entonces con esto estaba desapareciendo.
And as they started to disappear, Cacoldi found, we could raise these animals and liberate them into the forest and really bring back the population. So now we're gonna go check out the process. Vamos a ver el proceso. This is where the process begins. Every March, they put the eggs in here. So every iguana gives around 30 eggs, and from all the iguanas that they have in one season, they might have up to 1,000 iguana eggs. It's a lot. So after 4 months in here, the iguanas hatch, and then they're taken to the next station. Let's go see that. Entonces, Gloria, ¿aquí qué está pasando?
Estos son los bebés que tienen 5 meses. Aquí van a durar 2 años y después se van.
The reason why they keep them in here while they're small is because you have chickens and snakes and different animals that will eat them when they're small. So they keep them in here. They have a better chance of survival. So beautiful.
5 meses.
5 months old this is. Look at that, these colors, it's so incredible. See like the little blue specks. Son bonitas. It's incredible, there's iguanas all around here, like right in the trees. So they basically have these 3 stations where they have the eggs where they hatch, and then they bring them into one cage for a year, and then the next year you're gonna have new babies which go into there. It's like almost going on deck to being freed. So here, these iguanas are now 2 years old and pretty much ready to let go. Entonces, los grandes y los pequeños no pueden estar juntos. Por pelear.
Por el que se pelean.
So the big ones and the small ones can't be in the same cage because they'll fight. It's really good to do this because they have a really good chance of survival because they're set free, already strong. Ahora vamos a ver los grandes. Now we're gonna go check out the big ones. All right, we're going inside. Entonces, pero sí, de aquí pueden salir, ¿o cómo?
De aquí a veces ellas salen, pero siempre regresan.
Wow, she's saying that the iguanas are, now able to, they leave and come as they please. But they're always coming back here because they're very well taken care of. They mate here, and then they put out boxes where they end up putting their eggs, and then they move the eggs into the hatchery. In the last 20 years, they've released over 35,000 iguanas. They don't pay her to do this work. She does this truly just for the love of the animal and the conservation and really from her heart. In our minds often, work equates like, money and salary. What's just so beautiful is that the Bribri people, they do this work really just for the love of the earth and the love for these animals. And that's a really, really beautiful story. Quecolda is the only group that's really doing this kind of work, and people from all over the world and all over Costa Rica can come here and experience conservation really at its finest, that it's just so important for this area, it's so important for this animal. It's really, really incredible work, and gracias por el trabajo que estás haciendo aquí, de verdad. With the help of the bribri, the green iguana have been brought back from near extinction in this part of the world. Talk about saving the planet. I'm Stephen Brooks. See you next time.